So today, guys, in NHL 18, we're going to be running another simulation, but we're going to be figuring out who the best of the worst is this time. We're going to be going back into playoff mode and doing a simulation of all the NHL teams that unfortunately missed out on the playoffs this year to see which NHL team is the best. Hey guys, what's going on today? Bojo here, back in NHL 18, and like I mentioned, today we're going to be figuring out who the best of the worst is in the NHL. So if you guys don't mind, make sure to go down to that like button down below, make sure to hit it. Let's try to get this one up above 100 likes, and also leave down in the comment section down below for some other simulation and team build type of videos you guys would like to see. I'm going to start bringing them back a little bit now that we are kind of getting a little bit of a low point for NHL, and we need some new things to spice up the content again. So as you guys can see, we are back here in playoff mode again with the Western and Eastern Conference NHL teams that unfortunately missed out on the playoffs this year. I basically took their rankings at the end of the season and then matched them up accordingly, number 1 seed versus number 8, 2 versus 7, 3, 6, and 4 versus 5. Now, unfortunately, in the Western Conference, there's only 7 teams, while in the East, there's 8. So Arizona, you guys were the last seed in the Western Conference. Consider yourselves getting a first round bye. I matched them up with Team Japan. But with them getting a first round bye, all the other matchups are as follows: the St. Louis Blues versus Vancouver Canucks, Dallas versus Chicago, Calgary versus Edmonton. In the East, we got Florida versus Buffalo, Carolina versus Ottawa, New York Islanders versus the Montreal Canadiens, and the New York Rangers versus the Detroit Red Wings. Now, if we were going off by point totals in the real life NHL, obviously, the Florida Panthers would be the best team that missed out on the playoffs this year, only missing by, I believe, a couple of points for that last wild card spot. But as you guys know, in NHL 18, their simming engine is a whole nother story. Now, if I had to pick which team I think would come out on top here in the simulation engine, I think I might have to go with the St. Louis Blues on this one. I think their depth as a team is very, very good, and they have some pretty good stars on defense and on offense. So I think I'm going to go with the St. Louis Blues to make it all the way in this EA simulation. Alright guys, so we're into playoff mode now. I'm going to be starting our simulations through all of these series, and obviously we'll keep simming till we get down to our last series, and then we'll go over all of the matchups. Obviously the Arizona Coyotes stats are definitely going to be inflated playing Team Japan, but just deal with it. I don't think they'll be able to go that far into past round 2. So let's get to simming and let's see which teams are going to come out on top. Alright guys, so we were down to our last series, so let's do a quick recap. Obviously Arizona definitely was going to beat Team Japan, so they got that bye 4-zip. Vancouver beat St. Louis in 5 games, so apparently my opinion and my predictions mean absolutely nothing to EA Sports. What else is new? So they beat them in 5, Chicago swept Dallas, Edmonton ended up beating Calgary in 6, Buffalo ended up beating Florida in 6, Carolina beat Ottawa in 6, New York Islanders beat Montreal in 6, and now we're down to our last series here between New York and Detroit. So let's sim this game, and it looks like the New York Rangers unfortunately dropped that game, so we got a Game 7 here between Detroit and the New York Rangers. So why don't we do an in-game simulation for this one? Why not? First period, 2-0 for the Rangers, Jimmy Vesey and Cody McLeod. Interesting, Cody McLeod scoring. Second period, 4-1, Ryan Spooner, Chris Kreider, Dylan Larkin. So I think the Rangers will definitely take this one. They do. Darren Helm gets one, and Shattenkirk on an empty net. So the Rangers will be moving on to round number 2. So our round number 2 matchups are as follows. Arizona with that first round bye. Arizona versus Vancouver. Maybe 7 years down the line, this might be a Western Conference matchup in the playoffs. But Arizona versus Vancouver, Chicago versus Edmonton, and then the East, Buffalo versus Carolina, and New York Rangers versus the New York Islanders. Okay guys, so let's get to simming and let's see what our conference matchups are going to be. Okay guys, so we got 2 Game 7s coming at you guys here in round number 2, but as you can see, I predicted that Arizona wouldn't make it past the second round, but I was right. Vancouver beat them in 5. So I guess they're trying to win that last glorious Stanley Cup for the Sedins, because obviously we're using the roster updates that EA Sports last put out, the very last roster update in the game, so the Sedins still are on Vancouver, but they took care of them in 5, and Buffalo took care of Carolina in 5 as well. So we got 2 Game 7s coming at you guys here, Chicago and Edmonton, and both New York teams. So let's do this one first. Chicago and Edmonton, a very nice little matchup here. Taves and Kane versus McDavid. First period goes up 1-0, Zach Kassian. Second period, 1-0 still. Third period of champions, Drake Caggiula on Corey Crawford, and the Oilers shut out the Blackhawks 2-0, and they move on to the Western Conference Finals. And now we got the battle in New York. The Islanders versus the Rangers here in a Game 7. Johnny T might be able to get it done. Let's see. First period, 1-0 for the Rangers, Jesper Fast. Second period, 2-1 for the Rangers. John Tavares and Jordan Eberle stepping up big time to trying to get John Tavares a Stanley Cup before his free agency impending situation. Third period, 2-1. They hold them off, and the Islanders move off to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, in Bizarro World, we have the Edmonton Oilers versus the Vancouver Canucks in the West, and the Buffalo Sabres against the New York Islanders in the East. Alright, so now we get to finally see who is going to go to the best of the worst Stanley Cup Finals here in NHL 18. So let's get rolling. Alright, so we have our first team going to be representing the best of the worst is the New York Islanders, who beat the Buffalo Sabres in 6 games. And now we have a matchup in the West, Edmonton and Vancouver going to a Game 7. So this should definitely be interesting. Connor McDavid, once again, has that ability to pull his entire team with him to the playoffs. So let's see if he can do it right here in a Game 7, the most clutchest part of them all. Just kidding, it's Anton Slepyshev who's going to be stepping up in a big way. Rest of the first period is 2-2. Wow. So Henrik Sedin scores 2 for the Canucks, but Connor McDavid ends off the period with a goal himself to tie it up at 2 after the first. Second period, 3-2. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins gives the Oilers the lead, 3-2. Will they hold on? No, they will not. Daniel Sedin gets the tying goal on Cam Talbot with about 8 minutes to go. And now we're moving on to overtime, Game 7. What more could you ask for? Western Conference Finals. And it is going to go to the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid. Who else? Clutch goal, Connor McDavid, right from the faceoff dot. And the Oilers are going to go to the best of the worst Stanley Cup Finals against the New York Islanders. Well, well, well. What a very, very familiar situation. Peter Chiarelli is shaking in his boots right now. Chiarelli versus Garth Snow. What GM battle world are we living in right now? My goodness. Alright, so let's take a quick little peek at the point totals so far throughout this playoff run. Connor McDavid, once again, is still putting up points in the big way. 21 points in 20 games. Obviously, he's carrying that Oilers team all the way with him. Brock Besser had himself one heck of a playoff series as well. 20 points in 17 games. Johnny T with 17. Bo Horvat, Henrik Sedin, and Daniel Sedin all have like around 17 points as well. So the Vancouver Canucks did a really nice little job right there. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with 16. Kaner had 15 points in 11 games, so nice job by him. Jesse Puljujarvi's got 15 and 20, so he's pulling his weight as well. Barzal 14 and 19. Strome 14 and 20. Christian Dvorak, obviously I'm not going to count the Arizona Coyotes because they had elevated stats, but yeah, Eberle, Draisaitl down there with 13. So very interesting matchup between Edmonton and New York Islanders for sure. Cam Talbot and Yaroslav Halak's stats are right there. .928, .943 save percentage for Halak. That's actually really, really good for him. I'm surprised that he's putting up that good of save percentage. Goals against average 1.67 from Halak as an 82 overall. Pretty damn good. Alright guys, so before we jump into this final best of the worst Stanley Cup matchup here, I thought I should show you guys the lines just in case you forgot what the lineups look like with the newest roster update. So for New York Islanders, they're going to have Anders Lee, John Tavares, and Josh Bailey on line 1, Anthony Beauvillier, Matt Barzal, and Jordan Eberle on line 2, Andrew Ladd, Brock Nelson, and Cal Clutterbuck on line 3, Chris Wagner, Casey Cizikas, and Alan Quine on line number 4. Defensively, Nick Leddy and Johnny Boychuk, Brandon Davidson, Calvin DeHaan, Thomas Hickey, Ryan Pulock, and then obviously Jarl Halak and Thomas Greiss as the backup. And as we move over to the Edmonton Oilers side of things, they have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid, and Jesse Puljujarvi on line number 1, Anton Slepyshev, Leon Draisaitl, and Pontus Aberg on line 2, Milan Lucic, Ryan Strome, Mike Camilleri on line 3, Drake Caggiula, Juhar Khaira, and Zach Kassian on line number 4. Defensively, Darnell Nurse and Adam Larson, Oscar Klefbom, Matt Benning, Andre Sekera, and Chris Russell. Cam Talbot in net with Al Montoya as the backup. Here we go, Edmonton versus the New York Islanders. Let's see who's going to walk away with this. Technically, who has home ice advantage in this series? Edmonton had 78 points and the Islanders have 80. So technically, the New York Islanders do have home ice advantage in this series. So here we go. Game number 1 goes to the New York Islanders. Game number 2 goes to the New York Islanders. Game number 3 goes to the New York Islanders. Are we going to see a sweep? Is Connor McDavid not going to show up in the biggest game of them all? Or are we going to see a reverse sweep? First period, 0-0. Second period, 0-0. Third period, 1-1. Mike Camilleri and Brock Nelson. Cup is in the building. Will the New York Islanders walk away with it? No, they will not. Leon Draisaitl pushes this back to a game 5, and the Oilers stave off elimination. They gotta do this 3 more times. Game number 5, first period, 2-0, not looking good. John Tavares and Josh Bailey. Second period, 3-0. Thomas Hickey on Cam Talbot. I think that's gonna do it. Simming is complete. 4-1 final. Kyle Clutterbuck. Draisaitl gets 1 with 46 seconds left, but it does not matter. So in EA's simulation of the best of the worst for the NHL teams that did not make the playoffs, they believe that the New York Islanders have the best chance of winning the Stanley Cup. 23 points for Johnny T, one hell of a playoff run. 14 points for Eberle and Nick Leddy as well. 16 points for Barzal and Beauvillier, 13 for Bailey, 12 for Lee. Nelson and Ladd both each had 11. Clutterbuck had 6. The story is Jarl Halak 16-4-4 with 3 shutouts, a save percentage of .945, goals against 1.6. There is your Conn Smythe Trophy winner without any question whatsoever. But there it is, guys. There is the playoff bracket for the best of the worst NHL teams that did not make the playoffs. And EA Sports believes that the New York Islanders will go all the way. Obviously, you can ignore Team Japan. I felt nice for Arizona, gave them a bye, but like I said, they didn't get past Vancouver. Very interesting to see that St. Louis didn't make it out of the first round. I thought they had the best chance of doing it, but Vancouver unfortunately said otherwise, and they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals anyway. So I'll eat my words. Islanders beat Montreal, which is no easy task. They had to go through Carey Price and Henrik Lundqvist to get all the way there. Then they had to get by Jack Eichel's Buffalo Sabres, and then beat Jesus on ice himself, Connor McDavid, in 5 games. And the New York Islanders bring a cup back to the Isle on New York. So thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy this, make sure to leave a like down below. Leave your suggestions for other videos you guys would like to see as well. And I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.